That apparently happens.
She kills her?
Wonder Woman kills Mira in one comic version. And I was like, guess we know where we're going.
Can we have that? I'd like that.
What? Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
This is So I'm Watching This Show, your twice weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about movies, TV, music, and Snyder Cuts. As always, this is a spoiler show for a movie we've all seen twice, so we're just going to talk about it. I think that's mostly what we're going to do. We're just going to talk about the thing. I don't think we're really going to be dissecting or diagramming.
No.
I think I got the plot. I got it better.
Yes.
I did the thing that I do where I really only paid attention to the parts that I was interested in.
Sure.
And then when I wasn't, I just was like, because it doesn't matter. But
I tried to pay attention to the whole thing, and now I've seen the back half twice.
Yes.
So, but I'll go now and say we're going to do full spoilers from the beginning. So,
and you watched Justice League.
We did, yes. Will, my husband and I watched all of the Snyderverse movies, and then also Aquaman.
So,
which takes place after this, but we watched it anyway.
Well, before we get into it, let's take a look at that black and white 4:3 trailer. I distinctly remember the trailer for the 17 version coming out, and they kept debuting it on Twitter, and I was like, no. I was like, I'm not going to watch a box of this.
Yeah.
And it was weirdly kind of hard to find the full ratio Twitter on YouTube because I was incensed because it was like one of the shots in the trailer was that trailer of them in front of Superman. It was a trailer of like all of them, and it was cutting off two of them.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, why on earth would you ever present a movie in that 4:3 ratio when your movie is going to be about tableaus?
Yeah.
Like,
evidently what Will said is that it's because it was like for IMAX or something.
Cutting to the chase, yeah. So I don't know where to start. I really, I know I say that all the time, but there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of context.
Yeah.
This movie does not exist without context.
Correct.
Well, and that's it does. And I kind of envy, or I wonder what that experience is like.
Watching this and being just super into it.
Stumbling upon this movie alone.
Oh, God.
And not knowing the like
all the behind the scenes stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Because there's Joss Whedon, there's Zack Snyder, there's Amber Heard, there's Ray Fisher, there's like so many things.
I mean, we're bleeding into Charisma Carpenter.
There's so many things that
there's a deep personal tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff that happened, and then this movie
that
happened.
Were part of this.
Yeah. And so it is hard
Mission
to divorce
Impossible
it.
5.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Are we talking about are we talking about Joss Whedon?
I will, if you make me.
Well, I guess the only thing I'll say, and this extends into the Amber Heard, is that I'm at a place where I feel like we have not reached a consensus yet.
No, there's a consensus on Joss.
A lot of, well, sure, but it's all still like a lot of sure, yeah.
We're still like the literal jury is still out on
Amber Heard.
Like literally, there's like a literal court case happening literally right now.
I just like,
but and as you can see, I have very mixed feelings. It makes me. It hurts my feelings, the Joss stuff.
I mean, do we just think he's like a cock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's just like a bad dude who was like sexist and racist and cheating on his wife all over the place. And so it's just, but he was able to like get away with it through this like veil of feminism that he like put in his projects. And it sucks. It sucks super hard. And I am very conflicted because I can't make myself not like his stuff.
We are separate the art from the artist
if you can.
Yeah. And that's a little bit easier to do when you're not sort of in the throes of it. And when it also, like, what was the joke? Oh, Pete Davidson made a joke about how, like, if we're going to cancel Macklemore, that pulls right out of culture. Yeah. Michael Jackson's a little bit harder to remove from the fabric of society. It's like, I can't just change my life. Yeah. Like, so I think that when you sort of grew up with Joss Whedon being such like a formative thing, and then that's also because it's absolutely killing me what we're going through with J.K. Rowling and the Wizarding World, because it has become a 4-letter word. Yeah,
we also have Harry Potter stuff. I mean, that's the thing.
But I mean, I specifically have not brought my Bellatrix doll here because I'm like, I just don't want that energy, and it's like that's not fair to the people who worked on, like, these movies are gargantuan. Yeah. And the amount of people invested in it, that worked on it, that put blood, sweat, and tears, and it's like the fact that one person can really torpedo a ship. That
just ruins the whole thing. Yeah.
It sucks. So, you know, we're not those people who come down, and we're not the judge, jury, or executioner.
No, I think it's important to note that, like, there are, because I'm going to mention things from the Joss Whedon cut that I preferred. There's only like 2 of them, but I preferred a couple things from that. And I think it is his artistic sensibility that makes me like it. And I'm so tuned into that because I've been a fan for so long. And I'm no longer a fan of him, but I can't stop liking the style. It's ingrained in me now. So it's tough. It's a tough thing. I will say right out of the gate, this movie was more cohesive. I understood more.
Yeah, okay. I kind of loved it. I
kind of liked it. I have no huge complaints, except for the runtime is
it is
out of pocket.
It is very easy to make fun of.
Sure.
But that is part of the fun of loving something sometimes.
Sure. This is not going to be like that. I'm not going to ever watch this again, I don't think. It's so long. It's so much.
But what if there's a commentary? No, I'm kidding. I'm just saying that, like, my stakes for the DC universe and this series are so managed that it's the kind of thing,
like, my expectations are right down the middle.
Because we kind of were fine with the 2017 version. We were kind of like,
so the thing is like, especially in hindsight and watching it again, it was like a little more dicey.
It feels hollow and
it's hollow, and it's also, well, some of this is hollow too, but it's also very choppy and disjointed. And it was because there was like half of Zack Snyder's stuff and half of Joss Whedon's stuff, and they could not be more diametrically opposed, like, stylistically.
It's almost like on Drag Race, where they give, like, the 2 groups of queens the same, like, base script, but they have to do, like, different things with it.
Yeah, 100%. And so it's like there's all of these moments of levity that don't actually land in the Whedon one, because everything else surrounding it is like a black hole of, like, depression.
Well, but also there were more jokes in this than I would have ever guessed, and
it's twice as long.
A lot of the things that I just assumed were Joss bits, are not, and that's kind of hilarious to me. Yeah. What I like about this movie is that it is what it wants to be.
Yeah, you can 100%. This is what Zack Snyder intended.
And there's a very sort of, if we're going to do this, then let's fucking do this. Yeah. They say fuck. There's some pink mist. Yeah. It's not a hard R. It's a very light R.
It's a light R, yeah.
But it's the kind of thing where I'm like, if I'm going to get Zack Snyder's Justice League, that I want motherfucking Zack Snyder's Justice League. Right. I don't want Warner Brothers, like, third attempt at saving face featuring Zack Snyder and maybe Christopher. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if we're going to do this, then do it. Yeah. And there was something about this that I was just sort of like, fucking thank you.
Yeah,
like,
finally.
It is way too long. Yeah. It's way too serious. It's way too
visibly dark.
I said he's high on his own supply. Yeah. However, I don't really have a problem wallowing in that for an extended amount of time. Most people that I know have watched this in one sitting. I watched it in like 3. I had no problem with that.
Sure.
Especially in specifically today, I mean, being, month 13 into quarantine.
Yeah.
Being in the platinum age of television. I mean, content is anywhere from TikTok videos to binging an entire series.
Sure.
So when people get like butthurt about the 4-hour runtime, I almost look at that as like, it's not quaint, but it's sort of like, I mean, how is this any different than watching Tiger King in one?
Sure. I'm not butthurt about the runtime. It just, okay, here is my actual biggest issue with this project as a whole. I think it sets a really bad precedent.
I think it's fascinating.
I think it sets a bad precedent because now we know that if you're loud enough, you'll get the thing you want. And I don't think that that's correct when it comes to art.
It's not that new, though. This is the George Lucas special editions of Star Wars. And
yeah, but those are terrible.
Yeah, this was better received.
Yeah.
But it's this one, like, I remember, and this is not one of our episodes, and we're actually going to probably do it sooner rather than later.
The prequels?
Yeah. But I remember watching the prequel with you, episode 1, because you had never seen it. And I remember watching the special features after the fact. And there's a documentary on the first DVD release of The Phantom Menace that's fascinating because it's relatively neutral. And they were filming the documentary while they were filming Phantom Menace. And you can tell that there are people in the production of Phantom Menace that are sort of like, like there's a casting director who's like talking to Natalie Portman. He's like, I'm trying to get this young woman to sign off on the next 6 years of her life. And we have nothing to show her. We have no scripts. We have no and there's a scene where an editor, George Lucas, is sort of editing through the editor, and he's trying to split 2 different shots and combine them.
Right.
So he's using take 1 for this character and take 4 for this character and put them into the same shot. And the director of the documentary asked the editor, he's like, can you do that? And the editor goes, yeah, but it really opens a lot of doors that I don't feel like if you're combining different takes from different shots and you're someone like George Lucas who's constantly coming up with batshit idea. It's like 1 out of every 4 ideas works.
Yeah, right.
And I realize that this is a long rant for the Phantom Menace. I'm sure you came here for. Actually, no. I think that the people out there will be like, yeah, no.
I think that Venn diagram might be very close to a perfect circle.
And I just remember having in the year 2020 or 2019, whenever we were watching it, I had an appreciation for the Phantom Menace because I was like, these prequels are terrible, but they took a bullet.
Sure.
They charged forward into new territory and made mistakes that we could then learn from.
I was going to say, and George Lucas can take it. He can take that hit personally and professionally.
Because I agree with you. It sets a dangerous precedent that if you can be loud enough.
Yeah.
And I like. You can swing your dick around.
Yeah. And I'm going to be a little incendiary, but it's like these people specifically can be loud enough. And that is the part.
Well, the powers that be will listen to
this
them.
Group of people.
They'll get catered to before any other groups.
And I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that really chaps my ass.
Because I think, for me, and I know this is the slippery slope.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm sort of like, oh man, think of how many movies that we watched that were so close to being good. And I was like, could you imagine if we could go back and actually let the director go through and finish it?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is awesome and terrifying.
Sure. I mean, I 100% agree with that. And I mean, there are movies but I'm not starting online petitions and being a dick about it on the internet. So it's like.
And I mean, to be fair, there have always been director's cuts. There have always been extended cuts. That's not
the notion of a director's cut of a movie is not what incenses me. It's the specific context of this thing.
I just don't understand it. It's going to make a joke that I can't make because the source of the joke is deeply problematic.
Oh.
I can't understand. It's this whole exercise where you hire Zack Snyder, you get Zack Snyder, and then you're somehow
baffled by the Zack Snyder.
To make it something else. And so for me, I'm like, that's what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
That's like.
Here is my thing too. I think this was a Warner Brothers problem to start out with because I think they were like, Zack Snyder make Justice League, and then he obviously had a terrible personal tragedy. His daughter committed suicide. That's horrible. And he had to step back from it. My question is, in the first place, why don't you just push it until he feels ready to come back? We could have waited. We could have had Aquaman. We could have had The Flash. We could have had a Cyborg movie. We could have built these characters up in a way that then this movie makes sense. So that's my first question is, why do you not shelve this for a couple of years until he feels comfortable coming back? My second issue is, if you're going to replace him with somebody, replace him with somebody who will just execute his vision. Don't replace him with somebody who is like the almost
competition.
Competition, the like thematically opposite person that you could ever pick. Why are you giving this dark series to Joss Whedon, who, yes, he kills a lot of people, a lot of characters, but he's funny. All of his stuff is always funny and quippy. And it's like, that's so diametrically opposed to the tone. Well, and
furthermore, they apparently then just straight lied to the cast and told the cast that Zack Snyder picked Joss Whedon,
which it evidently was not true at all.
And so,
because I was in that boat, I was like, well, he chose him to take it over.
I mean, why don't they let him pick his replacement? You know, why don't they let him have final cut? Which then makes me think that there was other things going on, which I mean, I think Warner Brothers had cold feet. Yeah. I think that they didn't have the balls to fire him. Yeah. But they also, it's the business part of Hollywood that really sits wrong with me so frequently.
Well, and then, you know, come to find out there was all kinds of like racist nonsense with Joss and the writers and some producers.
How is this stuff still?
I have no idea. It's so atrocious and so ridiculous, because I remember coming out of the 2017 one and being like, well, I wish I knew anything about Cyborg. He seems like he'd be cool. And I will say we definitely get more of Cyborg in this one. I don't necessarily think it's better.
No, but it was a very standard. Yeah. It was a very tropey character.
It was very tropey, and I don't have any issue with Ray Fisher's performance. No. I think he did exactly what he was told to do, and I am glad we have more information about him, but it is still kind of like, I wanted there to be a little more depth to the character. In a way that that was what I was looking forward to almost the most about this. And it did let me down a little.
I didn't love Aquaman in this. And maybe it's because I enjoyed 2019's Aquaman so much. And he's more fun-loving in that. Where in this, he's just kind of a dick.
He's just like sad and mad all the time. And I'm like...
Well, yeah, I don't know. It was weird. What is with the contacts?
I don't know.
Because they're not. I hate it.
Yeah. Because in Aquaman, his eyes just glow gold when he's Aquaman.
Yeah. Well, the character of Arthur Curry has blue eyes, but those aren't blue contacts.
No, they're like,
it's
white.
The white.
Yeah, it's weird.
That I don't understand.
It's like, okay, here's my biggest issue. This movie is 4 hours long, and we don't really we get less of Aquaman. And we get more of Cyborg, but it's not excellent. And then we get more of Barry, which some of that is excellent, but some of that stuff I preferred in 2017.
I don't think we get less of Aquaman, because that is the thing that I responded to the most. Is I liked that this movie was actually about the plot of the movie. Yeah. We can argue whether or not it's good or bad, but it was about the world and then these people that exist in this world. Sure. Like, we open with Superman's like death scream that wakes up the mother boxes, but it's like
that's already more explanation than the 2017, and to which I'm very grateful.
But it's like we get an actual sense of who the Amazons are, of who the Atlanteans are. Yeah. I like the character of Mira. I want to live in a world where I can
a waterbender is like
that. I can and that I can be proud and excited for her. You know, I had no real issue with Amber's performance in 2019's Aquaman. To quote myself there, I think she's fine. Yeah. I'm at a place where I am starting to join the fans with the let's just bring Emilia Clarke in.
Yeah, oh god, the chemistry with her and Jason Momoa is already off the charts.
Because I liked Mira's presence in this movie. Mm-hmm.
I need to talk for 45 minutes about who decided she's British. Because, okay, here's the other thing. We just rewatched Aquaman. No other Atlanteans are British. 0 of them. Zero of them speak
and
the
it's
British
the kind
accent.
of thing that I could
What the fuck?
I could understand the decision to go from a British accent to an American accent.
Yeah, but not the other way.
Not the other way around. Because what I read,
it's not for me.
What I read was that she ADR'd that, and I just want to know whose priorities were that. In the year 2020, we need to bring Amber Heard in to re-record 5 lines of dialogue in a half-assed British accent.
No.
Why was that what money was being spent on?
I have no idea.
This vanity, like in this exercise in insanity?
No idea. I want to know the thought process. Like, you're embroiled in a legal battle in England. Perhaps you should be British in this movie. Are you fucking serious? I don't know. It's so out of pocket.
And she wasn't particularly good at it.
No, she was bad at it. It's a bad British accent. She's from Texas. It's a bad British accent. I'm sorry. It's bad. I'll tell that bastard what to do, and I shove this in his face, and no.
Let the bastard come. I'll stab this through his heart for what he did, Arthur.
I can't do it. Really bad.
You covered your face.
Should I not have?
No, why? That's how, like, you were embarrassed.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You, like,
no, it was...
When we were watching it, you picked up your laptop and, like, burrowed your head in.
Well, because I just wasn't expecting it the first time. And so I was just, like, gaping at the, like, audacity. And then the second time I knew it was coming, and it's just horrible. Horrible.
Well, because I loved that aspect of that scene. Because I remember the whole time watching Justice League, they're like, we need Aquaman. And I was like, why?
Yeah, why? Literally, why?
He's a drunk mess. I was like, she's the one that's throwing water bombs around left and right. I was like, put her on the team. Mm-hmm. And then that's what they apparently do. We're going to jump right to that scene. So
the epilogue.
Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. And I could feel every bone in my body telling me that I was supposed to hate it, and I didn't. And I think that's because it's all we're going to get.
Yeah.
Of a glimpse of what would have happened if this continued.
Sure. Well, it's like an alternate potential future that Bruce is dreaming about.
You gotta love that at least he stuck with it, that Bruce is prophetic. It doesn't make any goddamn sense, but he's not going to back down, and I respect that. I admire that.
That's fair. So
that's some microwaving broccoli and salmon in the break room energy.
No,
you know what I mean?
I literally, by the time we were done with this movie, I was like, oh my God, did you guys know that Bruce and Cyborg and Alice Cullen all have the same powers? I just was like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, and it was like Arthur was dead.
And Lois was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as dumb as it was.
And it looked like Wonder Woman wasn't there.
She wasn't there.
Yeah.
As dumb as the whole thing was, I'm sort of like, well, you gotta explain it. Like, why is Joker there? What? Like.
So the best that I can interpret is that there is a scene in the 2017 Justice League where Bruce sees Barry. Is it Batman versus Superman? Bruce sees Barry come to him from the future and says Lois Lane is the key. Mm-hmm. And he explains that to Diana in this movie, in the one we're talking about. And so all I can imagine is that, like, once Lois died, Superman went bonkers. Mm-hmm. And so now Superman is bonkers and he's trying to kill everybody.
Be your own anchor.
What? Oh, be your own anchor. So that's the only thing but I don't know enough about the comics to, like, comment on what run that comes from, or if that's a thing. Well, no, apparently Superman going bonkers and just start wiping out humanity is real. That's from the comics.
Well, and I mean, there is a run where the Joker kills Robin, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like it was alluding to, but that's where I'm frustrated, is because, like, for the most part, what this movie did was sort of get me back on board. And so I'm like, why, especially with these handful of people.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm finally at a place where I have fallen in love with my captors.
Sure.
I want Henry and Gal and Ben Affleck to I want to see their round table. I want to see, so there's a part of me where it's like, 'cause there are currently no plans to move forward with these people.
Which is
so I'm like,
astounding to me.
So then why did we do this?
Yeah.
And then furthermore, why did we finish it the way that we did with things open? Because I remember I did hear someone was, I think it was Glenn Weldon or somebody was talking about how though the plots of this version and the 2017 version are for the most part the same.
I mean,
where we end is in radically different places.
Yeah, I mean, because that is true. The like main plot is the mother boxes wake up, they assemble the team, they defeat Steppenwolf.
I kind of love, I made a joke, I wish I'd saved it, but I was like, whoever taught Zack Snyder what the word terraform is, because
prison.
Well, I said like town square.
Into the stocks with you.
because again, another thing where you kind of have to just admire that it's ultimately just the plot of Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's what the mother boxes do. And I was like, interesting. And I liked when they were like weird sorceresses there at the end. I don't know. There was so many parts of this that I was just kind of like, sure.
Yeah, I liked a lot of it. I liked most of the Flash stuff was really good. I liked his like meet cute with Iris.
I legitimately cried when Steppenwolf was like decimating the Amazons.
The Amazons, yeah. Which is very extended from what we saw in the 2017 version, which I was delighted about.
And I like, because I remember I mentioned it in our Wonder Woman version, but I remember there was a real backlash because of the way that like the Amazons were depicted in the 2017 version.
They're just wearing like leather bikinis. Your whole midsection is exposed. You're going to battle with your whole midsection exposed.
It's only those ones. It's only the I guess a lot of them had midsection, but there were more lingering shots of like tits and asses in the 2017 version, where in this one I don't know, I was super into it. I also love that it's like, because people talk about like Zack Snyder like he's like a gross sexist dude bro, but it was like, I mean, that can rear its head, but I actually like how he handles women. I think it's fascinating.
I like how he handles some women.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's fascinating that I mean, Hippolyta is in this movie. Yeah. She is a presence.
Blessedly, I love Connie Nielsen.
And there's something really cool about, what is she like? She's in her 50s. There's something really cool about a 50-year-old woman having like actual showpiece action scenes in a sci-fi fantasy epic.
For sure.
And Robin Wright is in this, although not as showcased as in Wonder Woman. But Nicole Kidman's Atlanta is not in this, but she is addressed and talked about in such high regard. Mm-hmm. The way that they have continued to use Martha. Yeah, there are women present in this movie in a way that I actually really appreciate and find interesting. The scene with, I kind of hate that it wasn't Martha, because I can say the scene with Lois and Martha in this version is so good.
Very good.
So much better.
Yeah. So much better. I, though, do chafe at Lois's whole thing. But I will say, because
chafe is different than outright hating.
I don't hate it, but it's really sort of annoying. Though they handle it in a different way. It rubs almost the same way as Diana in Wonder Woman 84 being like, I'll never love again. But the distinction is that she says, I'll never love anyone like I loved your son. Mm-hmm. That's a very important distinction, and it makes Lois less of a sad sack, in my opinion.
And it also, she's saying that to Martha Way, or Kent. So it's like, I believe that she means that, but also it's sort of her way of paying respect to his mother. Yeah. Because she's putting the ownership on that, like, I love the man you made him, is what she's saying.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And that for me is why that is as good as it is, and why it works so well. But not to mention, I mean, it's Amy Adams, Diane Lane. They're making it work.
They're great. But the issue, I still come to the issue where I'm like, I guess he hasn't been dead for that long, which is fine. But she's like going around wearing this engagement ring. In her brain, he's dead, he's gone. And I'm just like, he didn't actually propose. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a very like war widow in a way that I'm just like, she hasn't worked since he died. And I'm just like, I don't know. Stuff about it rubs me wrong, but in the end, it is carried through by Amy Adams' performance for sure. And blessedly, she is wearing her real hair in this movie. The wig in the 2017 one is so bad. One of the things that I preferred about the 2017 version, and it's how it specifically relates to Barry's character development, because he feels the most like a totally different character in this to me. Because he's like borderline on the autism spectrum in the 2017 one. And he's a lot more game in this one. And he's just like it's like a lot more, I don't know.
There's a bit more of a can-do. Like, he's scrappier, I want to say.
And I don't dislike it. But one of the things that I liked the most about Barry in the 2017 one is that the scene where they're going to fight Steppenwolf for the first time. And he's like, you guys all seem really ready to do battle, and I've never done battle before. And Bruce is like, just save one person. That's your mission. Save one person. And I was like, that's really good character development for Barry. It's also, in my opinion, good character development for Bruce, because especially if by this point we've already lost a Robin or we're not sure, but it's like a nice like surrogate like father-son moment. And then I think it's really good for their relationship together in a team building kind of way. And so that was something that was missing from this, that I assume Joss Whedon did it. And I want to make it clear, I am in no way apologizing for his behavior because he's like a creative, like artistic genius person or whatever. I think he's a bad person. I want that made clear. But that was something character growth wise that I was like, I prefer that to this, where it's just like, no, I'm totally here for battle. I'm like a kid. He's like 19 and he's like, I'm gonna do it. And I just prefer there should be some fear. He's not a warrior like the rest of them are. He's doing like Spider-Man Homecoming stuff. He's like stopping like, a jaywalker and stuff. And that's like a whole different ballgame. But one thing I did prefer in this one was that Wonder Woman had no qualms about waking up Superman. Because she's like a real bitch about it in the 2017 one. She's like, this is so inappropriate, and like
sometimes dead is better.
The sanctity of life, and I just was like, Diana, I get it, but you have to do it.
Yeah. I ultimately have ended in a place of liking Henry Cavill Superman.
Yeah.
And if this is any indication, less is more sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
I think having the little bit less of him made him I'm into it. I'm into the I mean, it is pretentious. It's overwrought and pretentious.
Yeah.
But the hero worship of it all, I think it kind of, I feel like Monica, where the
a little pretension never hurt anyone.
I'm just kind of like, I just love Wonder Woman. I love how beautiful and I love what a presence she is. She has sort of like it's such a female presence, and it's like, it's not maternal,
but it's not.
It's as opposed to nurturing, I would say more like reassuring.
Sure.
And I love that. I love how like glamorous everything she was wearing was. Yeah. All of her civilian clothes are
they're great.
High fashion.
Yeah.
High fashion.
No, they're really great. I also Danny Elfman did not score this movie like he did in 2017.
Did he really, or is that just a joke?
No, he really did, and it's really bad and stupid. In the Wonder Woman scene in the bank, it's with Bruce Bolton. It is like that, I swear to God. And it was happening, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then we watched this, and I guess, is it Junkie XL again? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And it was so much better. It's like dark music, and it was so much better. That Danny Elfman was the wrong choice. I love Danny Elfman. Wrong choice for this.
I like the weird history. See, I mean, I suppose that the plot made sense. I suppose Steppenwolf made sense. He was graspable.
Enough sense,
yeah, he was well-rounded.
Okay, I did really like his new look.
Yeah, the shiny spiky.
but I did not like it when he got nude for Darkseid. That was fucking weird.
He was a little, there was a couple scenes that were a little bit too close to being like the sexy robot from the Lost in Space reboot. There was just a couple of shots where I was like, those glutes are pronounced.
Yeah.
But I also...
He got nude. Like, he took all the armor. It was really bizarre. Really bizarre.
I think it's weird that that's not just a helmet.
Oh, it's like
that he has
like
pieces.
his head. Yeah.
Because one of them gets cut. Oh, I just spit all over the mic. One of them gets cut off, and you're just like looking. Ugh. It's strange.
The way that I was looking at it, because I have to compare it to, because I'm not a comic book person, which we've said multiple times, I have to compare it to the only other comic book thing I'm familiar with, which is Marvel, where in what I'm comparing it to is Steppenwolf is like Ronin and Darkseid is Thanos.
Okay. Yeah,
it's like one step above. But what Will was explaining to us that his friend at work told him is that Darkseid, there's like nothing beyond Darkseid. He's like the largest villain. I will say this movie leaves that open-ended. He's definitely going to come back. And so I'm just like, why are we not?
Why was he like Charlize Theron's magic mirror from Snow White and the Huntsman? He was like coming out of this like metal.
I think he wasn't able to manifest yet at that point.
I'm sure, believe me, I'm sure the movie has answered all of these questions.
Sure.
And I was just sort of like, I had just a monkey like cling, cling. It was in the 17 version, but it was way more in this one. I liked the like scene with like the ancients and like I like that's the Hippolyta look that I like. She had like a crown.
Yeah.
And I liked we had Zeus, Ares, and Artemis. That was exciting. We don't get Artemis frequently in these things. It's almost always Athena.
I was gonna say if they weren't Artemis's arrow that they had to shoot as because like Athena is the goddess of war. So
I mean, Artemis is not a warrior.
Not a warrior. I mean, I get it. I was like,
one Artemis is mythologically is the patron of the Amazons, I think. Although, well, like I said, in the comics they use Aphrodite a lot, and I mean, there's no qualms there. But
no,
I just liked that, and it's the kind of thing that I mean, it needs to be good. Because I frequently am like, yes, more just fantasy shit. And I mean that. But I mean, it should be good. I just sort of like, I was kind of watching that. And I liked this. I enjoyed kind of like watching it, especially the stuff that I liked.
Sure.
I enjoyed watching it unfold. A lot of people were complaining about how bad the effects were.
No, they're fine.
They were artificial. But they were consistent, and that because like I am actually charmed by
mediocre
effects, but as long because for me it's like a stylistic choice. To me, when people are like, oh my god, this like blah, blah, blah. I can't think of an example of something, but they're like, it looks so shitty. I'm like, well, do you say that when you look at watercolors? Or you're like, I can totally tell this is not a photograph. I'm like, it's a style.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I will also say,
immerse me in your world, even if it looks kind of artificial.
Sure, which is one of the things that we've always given in the plus column for Once Upon a Time. You are at least consistent.
Well, it's the whole Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow, Sin City. Like, I mean, just sort of like there's a sheen. And that's the thing is, it's like I made a joke because it's shocking when it happens, but there's a moment when like Steppenwolf is like has purple reflecting in him, and I'm like, what was that? I was like, it was like a combination of red and blue. I've never seen it before because there's 5 colors in this movie.
Yeah, that's tough.
I was criticizing it, but also, I mean, I don't hate it. I was mostly just mocking. I was making fun of it. But.
Yeah, okay. That is one of my biggest gripes too. Is that it's just
so you don't love it?
It's just so. Like dead, like there's nothing to it. It's so dark.
There's a very pewter sheen.
It's just very sepia and like not with the brownish, but it's just so sucked of any like interest. Like there's nothing for my eyes to grab onto. It's so everybody's so just with like a gray filter over
we mentioned it with because like Wonder Woman 84 it was like her
so bright,
it's red, like it's red
yeah. This is like maybe maroon,
bronze,
like I don't know. That's that kind of thing is not for me, because the thing I like about superheroes is that they're superheroes.
Mhm.
I want them to look like superheroes.
Zach is great at all the superhero shots and the slow-mo stuff. A lot of people were really hung up on the slow-mo.
There was just so much.
There was plenty. It could have been dialed back.
Yeah.
But once again, that's where I'm like, so what, you want it, like, that's not what you want from this? I'm like,
I want the slow-mo to have an impact. It's like by the time you get to the 5th J.J. Abrams property, you're like, I get it with the lens flares. I understand what you're doing. So it's like, you know, we're 10 minutes in this movie and I have watched Lois Lane get coffee and I'm like, Christ almighty. Like, good Lord. So I don't know. There's just like, I want
custard, good. Yeah. Cream, good. Meat, good.
I like it.
I like the fucking Kiersey Clemens. That shit was wild. First of all, this truck driver barreling down Main Street, USA, drops his cheeseburger on the dirtiest floor this side of the 20th century.
Yeah.
And then is trying to get that burger back. That burger is gone.
Yeah, you don't want that burger anymore.
But then this actually kind of like beautiful scene and this like meet cute for that is supposed to establish a franchise. And so it's just so funny because like the scene's great, the slow motion's great, all that stuff. I love the lightning.
Yeah, I like Barry's effect.
It just feels real. I don't know if that is, but it feels like science.
Yeah.
But there's just hot dogs everywhere. And it's kind of hilarious. And he takes one out of the air and she's just...
Yeah.
It's the dumbest, funniest thing in the world. And I, like, every fiber in my being was like, put it in her mouth. I thought for sure he was going to, like, put it in her mouth.
We thought he was taking it as a snack for later because he expends so many calories.
And I should also be clear, I don't think he should have put it in her mouth. No. That's called assault. And it's frowned upon. But I'm just saying, it was a choice.
Yeah.
In production.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I liked him with the dogs. Finn there.
Yeah.
So obviously when they brought in Joss, he did rewrites and they did reshoots. So that means that a lot of the footage that we saw there was addition.
Correct.
Was additional stuff.
Yeah, because the reshoots were apparently extensive.
Okay. Well,
in the Joss version.
So then maybe I'm answering my question right here. But because when they were doing this cost about $70 million to do, most of which was finishing shots that were already shot and re-rendering Steppenwolf. They apparently did do some reshoots for this, but it really only amounted to like 2 minutes of footage. So I'm so curious what the original script looks like, because there's a thing in Hollywood that like a page translates to a minute.
Okay.
And I'm just sort of like, how big was the original script? Like how?
Well, Zack Snyder has said that there is a longer version
than this.
Yeah. There's something that clocks in at like 5 hours.
Who greenlit this? How was that able to happen? Because so my mom watched this and she actually ended up enjoying it fine.
Yeah.
She does not dissect movies, let alone superhero movies. But she was tackling it from she was like, yeah, it was long. But she was like, but I don't know where you would break it. Like where? And I was like, well, in an ideal world, it wouldn't have been split in half.
Yeah.
I was like, half of the content in it would have already been addressed.
Correct.
We would have not been meeting Atlantis and Mira in this movie. And you know what I like?
Yeah.
So I was like, that's what they would have done is, yes, I do think that the ground that was covered in this movie should have been covered in a minimum of 2 movies.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that is, I think, this movie and the DCEU's biggest crime is that they didn't establish almost anything properly. Like we decently established Superman, we sort of established Batman, but in my opinion, there should have been a solo Batman movie.
Well, yeah.
Another Superman movie, a Cyborg movie, an Aquaman movie, and a Flash movie before this happened. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, pick 2 of the 3. You know, we can like leave us to get introduced to Cyborg in this movie or leave us to get introduced to the Flash in this movie. If you're bringing on like that one extra person, like whatever, but we shouldn't be getting introduced to three major characters in the runtime of this movie, because I still don't know almost anything about them.
Well, if this is the end, if he's like done with this, I feel like there's such a trajectory coming off of this.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously, my favorite part.
It feels like we're going off the slope.
Well, yeah, and
into
my favorite part was the Amazons, and so cut to, like, he's already decimated them and all that. We keep checking back in on them.
Yeah.
He's taunting Diana with them.
Yeah.
It just sets it sets a precedent. It sets an implication that we will see them again.
Yeah. I'm also curious why Diana hasn't been home in 90 years.
Yeah. I'm sure, again,
she's living in Europe. It's right there.
Of dialogue, but all in all, again, I kind of liked it, and furthermore, I'm glad the fans liked it. I think it was an interesting experiment. Sure. I do not think that I don't think it should be the word of the day is precedent.
Yeah,
I don't think that everybody should get this.
No.
But I don't hate knowing it's an option in this world.
I think what's gonna happen is we're gonna be in a very like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 or 8 years ago when Netflix was saving all the shows. We're gonna get into a real bump of people being like,
several Snyder cuts.
Sure, yeah,
and they're gonna be lousy.
Yeah, real lousy. Oh, I had one more point to make, and it's that if this is the end of this, I'm furious in a way that I was furious about the Netflix Marvel shows, because I was like, you went to such lengths to cast the most perfect people for these roles.
Good people.
Well, for the Marvel shows, I'm not being facetious.
Yes.
But there's excellent casting in these movies. Like, not across the board, but there's a lot of really good
Jeremy
casting.
Irons.
I mean, he's fine. I don't have an issue with Alfred, but
no, I don't either. I was sort of like, what are you doing here?
My issue is, that if this is actually the end, I mean, I know we've got another Shazam movie coming, we've got another Aquaman movie coming, and we've got another Wonder Woman movie coming, and we've got a Flash movie coming, but I don't know how entwined those are going to be. And so my issue is, if you're going to, WB is going to try to reboot some extended universe again in like 5 years, but you're gonna have to recast all these people. What's the fucking point? Like, it's just gonna be infuriating. We're gonna have to meet a new Batman.
But meanwhile, they'll refuse to recast anyone that it would make any sense for. But
right. So I don't know. It's just,
so the last thing I will say, because we glossed over it, but apparently, as you mentioned, the 4:3 ratio is because of IMAX.
Yeah.
To quote Jason Adams, we follow him on Twitter, he's hilarious, but he was hilarious. Like,
my new plaid pants.
It started, and I screamed.
Yeah.
I screamed. And not like in Twitter where people are like, and it says like, LMAO, I'm screaming. Like, that card came up, and I went, and Andrew like came out, and I was like, why?
Yeah, no.
Why? And so it's presented in 4:3 to preserve Zack Snyder's artistic, creative integrity. I know that if you've watched it, you know what it looks like, but for layman's, that means that the black bars are on the sides, not the top and bottom. I guess that's because IMAX is in 4:3.
That's what Will said, because the IMAX screen is like a big square. It's not a rectangle.
Yeah, I've seen maybe 2 movies in IMAX. I didn't like either because we didn't have, as far as I'm concerned, I think IMAX has maybe 15 good seats.
Yes, so, they are just smack in the direct middle of the theater.
Because we had to watch Tron like this.
Also,
and I hated
Avatar.
Yeah, I hated it.
We didn't have very good seats for Avatar.
And so I don't, for me, it would be, speaking of Avatar, it's the equivalent of like presenting a movie with a headache to preserve the 3D creative integrity. Because it's like the ratio is not the point of IMAX. It's like a side effect or a residual. It's a residual like thing to the side. And so it's the same way where it's like we put up with the headache to see the 3D thing.
Sure.
It's like no one is getting that image at home. So the ratio, it doesn't preserve. And I guess because he's also really hard up for like the super black and white chrome. And I don't understand that either. And I guess it was just explained that for a long time when he was editing, he only had the footage in black and white, which I don't think that's how digital cameras work. But I have no idea. I like Zack Snyder.
Me too.
I think is what I've come to the conclusion of is that I think I like Zack Snyder as a director.
Yeah.
I don't think I like him as a writer or a producer.
Yeah. Although, didn't he write Sucker Punch?
He did, but that's also a little bit fringe. That's the exception, not the rule.
That's true.
I just sort of I'm at a place now where I'm almost like, because I know he's saying he's done, and I'm like, I mean, sure. But I'm sort of at a place where I'm like, I wish him and Patty would switch. Whereas like I wish he would direct Wonder Woman and Patty would produce it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sort of like, your strengths and weaknesses need to be
balanced a little.
So
yeah, I agree. I'm basically I did enjoy this too for the most part. I think the first half is a lot stronger than the second half. We get some kind of...
The first half has the bulk of the new and recontextualized material.
Correct. We also, we get a lot more, like, talky, over-expository dialogue in the second half. That, you know, I mean, I understand why it's there. I understand why we need it. There's, like, a lot more explanation of what's going on and who's doing what and what we need to do to get done with it. And, you know, to a certain point, I really appreciate that because... the 2017 version was incomprehensible. It was like we didn't know why anything was happening or how we were going to finish it or anything. So there are definitely things I preferred about this one. And there are definitely gripes I have with it, which we've just spent an hour going over. But overall, I'm glad that we have this because I do think it suits the rest of the movies better.
It's done.
And now it's over. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say.
Hallelujah.
I need Zack Snyder to find a new song. I think Hallelujah is a great song, and I think Leonard Cohen is great. It's not the only song that exists.
And it can't be Heroes. It cannot be.
No. I'm just saying.
I want to swim.
Yeah, there are other songs.
Like dolphins. Sorry, okay.
Yeah, there are other songs. That's the last thing we're gonna say. All right, well, you can obviously watch this over and over and over to your heart's content on HBO Max. It is nicely broken into 6 parts, which is helpful if you are trying to, you know, spread it out or you want a good stopping point. There are title cards and everything. It's nice. It's
if
nice
Hot Toys makes a 1/6 scale figure of Hippolyta, how many will you pre-order?
Yeah. Time
is a factor. I'm writing an email right now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Let us know.
Put a poll up.
Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching or Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. You can also go to our website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything, including the YouTube if you're watching us, or any place that you listen if you're just listening. And also our Patreon if you want to give us money, please.
We got a Snyder Cut of our own that needs to get.
Yeah. we gotta make that into a something. So
I need 12 hours.
That's fair. That's a miniseries. Yeah, for sure. So, other than that, just please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you listen. And that's it for us. Bye.